So, welcome to my third Opus Project. This is about the book Mistborn the Final Empire. And we will go over the characterization of the protagonist Kelsier and the villain, the Lord Ruler. This is the first time I've written a script for this kind of things. So, let's get into it. The book Mistborn the Final Empire was written by the American author Brandon Sanderson. It is the first book in the Mistborn trilogy, and it's an epic fantasy novella that was published on the 17th of July 2006 by Tor Books. This book takes place on the planet of Scadrial in the Final Empire. Here you see right now the capital of that empire called Lufandel. On this world, the sun shines red and ash is constantly falling from the sky, coming from volcanoes, as you can see in here. The plants are all brown or gray, and magic mist appears in the night, which fills every inch of the world, and is just as suddenly as it arrives after sunset, it disappears in the sunrise. The Final Empire is the only nation of this world. It is led by the immortal Lord Ruler, the one that I will be characterizing today, a self-proclaimed god who rules over his empire for more than 1,000 years. It is said that he defeated a world-ending evil in the past, and through that victory, he also changed the world and became a god. Changed it into the world where plants are gray, ash falls from the sky, the sun shines red, the dystopian stuff. After the evil was defeated, he enslaved apparently all those who didn't believe in him before his ascension to godhood. This group, in the time of the book, is known as the Scar. They make up the majority of the population, so is 99% of the humans enslaved. The people that helped him in the quest and believed in him were elevated to the nobility. The brutal control of the Scar and their produce is their responsibility. Another important group are the obligators, servants and officials of the Lord Ruler. Without them, no contract between noblemen is valid. They control the nobility through administrations and help to keep up the law of the Lord Ruler. But the smallest and most important group of this world are the magic users. Those called Allomancers hold different powers through adjusting different metals, such as better strength, enhanced senses, limited telekinesis of a metal, and in rare cases the ability to look into the imminent future. Even rarer than normal Allomancers, which are called Mistings, which only hold power over one specific metal and that power, are humans called Mistborn. They can use every metal and its linked power, making them very powerful. They are more magic users or magic beings, such as Feruchemists, Kandras, or Colossus, but those are not important for this essay. But one last group of magic users is, though, those being the Steel Inquisitors, direct servants of the Lord Ruler. Those creatures don't follow the normal rules of allomancy and are therefore extremely powerful. They can have extreme speed, strength, and perception, and many more attributes that they hold make them very powerful. Also, they have steel spikes rammed into the skull where their eyes should be. So they don't have eyes, they have steel plates where their eye socket is, and coming out of the back of their head is the spike. A really horrifying image, which you will see at the end of the video. And in this essay, the character of Kelsier and the Lord Ruler will be analyzed. And the Lord Ruler, as I've said, is a tyrannical ruler that rules his nation for more than 1,000 years and is a self-proclaimed god. And Kelsier is a Mistborn who is the leader of a crew that did in the past heists on the nobility in the sense that they stole from them. But this time he wants to overthrow the Final Empire and kill the Lord Ruler. In the end, I will also look at the conflict that those two characters have and what they represent. So, let's start with Kelsier, as you can see right now on the screen. Kelsier is a protagonist in the story. He has also some other names, such as the survivor of the pits of Hashin, but he's more commonly referred to as just the survivor. What the pits of Hashin are, I'm going to explain now, because those left some marks on him. Kelsier is described as a tall, hawk-faced. By Vin on the page 40, I know that through different books, the page number differs, and I wasn't that intelligent to put up the chapters. So if you have the book from Tor, which is from, let me see for a second. Da, 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 da. 2023, then you have the exact same pages as I do. If not, then it should be around on that page number. Anyway, let's go on. Furthermore, he has blonde hair, also as you can see in this picture, and hazel eyes. A very characteristic thing about him, and what has given him, well, the result of that gave him the name of the survivor, are the scars all over his arm. Those are really thin scars that go from his hand up to his biceps and on or around everything else, which are from the pits of Hashin, where the scar, mostly criminals, have to go into caves in a kind of work camp where they find very precious metal called atium, and by doing this they have to grab into a geode that is filled with spikes, in which the middle of it is the very expensive metal called atium, which also, when digested by a Mistborn, gives them the ability to look into the future, which is why this metal is so expensive and valuable to the Final Empire. And in doing the bidding of the Final Empire and in grabbing the atium, the person that doing that gets a lot of scars because there are a lot of sharp edges in the geode that leave those scars that Kelsier has. So now let's go to the interior view of Kelsier. And he is throughout the book a mentor figure for another protagonist called Vin. Vin is a street kid and is around 16 years old, and she's also Mistborn. But she doesn't know that before she meets Kelsier. And the first meeting takes place in the thieving crew hideout, where she's part of the thieving crew, and that takes place on page 44. Here, Win is depicted as a paranoid kid that thinks that everyone just uses each other for their own personal gain. Betray, abuse are an everyday order for her. And she thinks also that because her brother, Ren, who taught her the mistress of everyone, has reinforced that into her mind by also betraying her and leaving her behind in that thieving crew. And in a conversation with Kelsier, she learns, that she's a Mistborn, and through their dialogue, she's always very suspect. On page 48, for example, she asks Kelsier to drink half of a vial of elementic metals, which he said she should drink, but she doesn't trust him that those are elementic metals. She thinks it's poison. But in the end, he drinks it, and she drinks it, and now they find out that she's a Mistborn. And she goes with them to not stay in that abusive, very bad place of the thieving crew that she's currently in. And through that time together, he teaches her a lot of things about elemancy and training in the mist. And one of those training sessions is on page 110, where Kelsier teaches her the basics of elemency and the powers of the basic metals. Because there are a lot of rules in that magic system, which I will not get into in this essay because that is a whole video on its own. It's a very interesting, very detailed magic system that is absolutely astonishing and masterfully created. But if the need arises, I will explain the different metals and what they do. But at this moment, no. Yes. There are also other crew members in the team that Kelsier put together to stop the Final Empire. And those also hold elementic abilities, but are not Mistborn. Those are Mistings. So they only hold one power. And each of them teaches Vin about their power. Because only having one power makes you a specialist in it. And with that help, she grows very strong in, per se, being a Mistborn in general. Also, he teaches a lot of stuff about pewter drag, which is a thing that happens when you burn pewter too long, which strengthens your body. And you do it for a very long time, like 3 days with non-stop running. Your body is not built for that, but through the magic, it keeps up. Which then, after you start burning pewter, leaves your body in a completely desecrated state, which he teached her about, and she also experienced that firsthand on page 345. Then also he teaches her the power of gold, which is seeing into an alternative version of yourself. Very weird stuff, not going to go into that. And in general, the skills of fighting as a Mistborn, because they are the perfect perfect slayer in the sense that they are like a one-man army. They can do very, very much stuff with their magic. But he didn't just show her how to give her powers, he also gave her a better life. He makes her part of a crew that trusts each other. Her life before meeting with Kelsier consists of a struggle for survival, constant abuse and betray, like I said before. And in the Fivian crew she lived, she was constantly reminded by the harsh crew leader that he can send her to the whorehouses. So, in this world, nobody goes to the whorehouses. The only people that go there are the nobility. And elementic powers are hereditary. So they are given to the children of the people that have those elementic powers. A lot of elementic abilities are in the nobility, which means that every time a nobleman goes to a whorehouse and does a thing, the woman has to be killed before she gives birth to the baby so that no elementic powers go to the scar. The law of the Raw Ruler is not omnipotent, is not all-powerful, which means there are still Scar, for example, like Kelsier, that are Mistborn, or Mistings in general exist in the Scar population. But threatening someone with sending them to death and before getting raped by a nobleman is very bad for one's psyche and a very bad life, which she got out of because of Kelsier. And she was very suspectical of that life because, well, the only thing she knew was betray. For example, like she listened through keyholes and peeked on everyone and spied on everyone, that's the word. But after a while, though, through the lessons of Kelsier and time and the crew, she got to love her life. And she didn't want it to change, which she also expressed with Sazed, a member of the crew, on page 402. Then, Kelsier also cares deeply for Vin. At the aftermath of an Inquisitor attack on page 169, he says that Vin should stay outside due to the massacre that lays in the building. He was concerned for Psyche because an Inquisitor attack is very gruesome, body parts everywhere, blood everywhere. It's a bloodbath. Nobody wants to see that, and he also wanted to not give that to Win. Then on page 76, he also thinks, "You will get your chance, kid," right before he runs on a on a dangerous mission. So he not only tries things to protect her, but also wants that she gets a chance to be useful and what's the word I'm looking for? Well, we're not going to go into that. But he's also very caring for her in the sense that he doesn't want her to die, and he sees her really as a friend and as a pupil. For example, on the page 230, after like a very difficult and dangerous mission they went on, he thought he had lost her, and he thought to himself, "You let her die too. First Mary, then Win." Mary being his wife that died. And he blamed himself for it, but after Finn got found and it turned out that she was not dead, she explained to him that it wasn't his fault because she forced him into letting her go in the mission, which is true. But Kelsier still apologized sincerely to her, and Kelsier also sees himself as a father and Vin as his daughter to him, because in the letter he wrote her after his death, he told her that Murray always wanted a daughter. And the letter shows how deeply the connection of them were and still is even after death. And the story between them can be summed in 3 simple sentences. It is a connection between a teacher and a student, between a father and a daughter, and between a mentor and a becoming hero, because that is what Vin became, because she was the one that killed the Lord Ruler after the death of Kelsier. Then, the next internal attribute of Kelsier is that Kelsier is hurt because of the death of his wife, but he still trusts his crew, even though he does not know if the person he loved the most betrayed him. So, for that, some backstory. So the betrayal of his wife Mary is rumored a lot in this book, even on the first few chapters. She is said to have betrayed him in a giant heist, and this heist was about a crew trying to break into the palace of the Lord Ruler itself and stealing something valuable. However, they were caught, and the Lord Ruler thanked Mary for giving him the needed information. And after this point, Kelsier was sent into the pits of Hashan, where he got all of the scars, and it was a brutal work camp. And after a few weeks, Mare, his wife, was also sent to the pits. And they both apparently never talked about that. And she died in front of his eyes, beaten by a slave master. And in that moment, he snapped, which is not a term of going insane, but it's a term for elemency. Every elementic power in oneself gets activated when you snap. It is when you have a very traumatic moment, and after that you can access your powers, either by being a Misting or Mistborn. And after this moment, he snapped, and then he killed everyone, every guard in the pits of Hashan, and left. And that's where he got the title Survivor of the Pits of Hashan from. And even though he thought he was betrayed by the person he loved most, he still trusts his crew, because in his own words, "I think given the choice between loving Mary, betrayal included, and never knowing her, I choose love. I risked and I lost, but the risk was still worth it. It's the same with my friends. Suspicion is healthy in our profession, but only to an extent. I'd rather trust my men than worry about what will happen if they turn on me. On page 235. That is something he said to Vin in a conversation where she asked about Murray. And this attitude is seen through so many interactions with other characters. For example, on page 66, he lets somebody go from a secret meeting, which was very delicate information, and the person could have sold them out to the Final Empire and killed them all and get a little bit of money. But he still trusted them, so he let them leave. Then on the page 130, he gives Vin the choice between having enough money for her to have a good life as a Scar or staying in the crew. Because he knew that she wasn't 100% into the crew and into the plan of overthrowing the Final Empire, but he needed people he could trust. So he gave her the decision, and well, she chose the crew. So right after they made the decision, he entrusted her with the very difficult task on spying on the nobility by impersonating a noblewoman, which I find really interesting. But they needed her, otherwise they wouldn't get information out of the nobility, which was needed for the plans to overthrow the Final Empire. And also an important event in the book on page 360 is the execution of an innocent woman and children after the rebel army attacked a garrison, which was not the plan of Kelsier. The rebel army was built by him, but it was not planned for them to attack a local garrison. And at this event, the Lord Ruler himself arrives in a wagon, a giant wagon that he didn't step out of. And during the deaths of the Scar, Kelsier held a speech to his crew. Overlooking the giant execution square, he told his crew that the money they would get after the job was just an excuse to do something good. Well, before that, I have to throw in some information first. So all the crew members only did that for the giant money in the treasury of the Lord Ruler's palace. Not really because they wanted the Final Empire to fall, but only for the money. But in this moment, Kelsier wants to reveal that they all really secretly wanted to do something good and not for the money. He tells them that the doubts about his procedure and how does his plans have to stop, because otherwise his plan won't work and the Final Empire won't fall. He tells the crew that he didn't choose them because they were the best. He chose them because they were all truly good people, which he could trust. He could trust them even after his death. He gave them directions, plans, and orders even after he died in form of letters, as seen on page 485. And those orders and directions and plans were followed by his crew because they trusted in the plan of Kelsier. He trusted them that they could end the Final Empire without him. The last of the internal attributes of Kelsier is that Kelsier has a dream of a green world. The world he currently lives in is filled with ash, grey plants, a red sun, and a depressing state of the world. And he wants a world where people can live free without the oppression of the Final Empire. And this dream emerged with the death of his wife, because Murray used to collect old stories from before the Lord Ruler ascended to godhood. Tales of a world with green grass, a yellow sun, and a sky that is blue, where no ash fell from it. And she dreamt of a world like that. And Kelsier took that dream with him out of the pits of Hashan. And he wants to see that dream fulfilled, as said on page 236. He starts with the end of the final empire, but in the end he never saw the fall of the nation of oppression, and he never saw green grass grow on Scadrial. The conclusion about Kelsier is that the Kelsier, the survivor of the pits of Hashan, is a character who holds a lot more attributes than the one listed above. But in my conclusion, he is a man that is a great mentor, a friend, a man that does anything for his dreams, and a man that believes and can trust in the people around him. A good man. In this book, Kelsier is the representation of hope. He's the personification of it, because hope is not a delicate thing that needs protection or is whispered about. It's a brutal force. Hope means never giving up. It means always standing back up again. Always. It unites people under extreme circumstances and helps them to keep fighting even in the darkest of times. And this is Kelsier. He never gives up. He didn't give up when the rebel army in the end of the part 3 of the book, in the end of the part 3 named Children of a Bleeding Sun, got destroyed by the local garrison, making their whole plan redundant, because without that army they couldn't take Luthandel, the main city. But even then, he declared that after the death of thousands of his soldiers, that he isn't gonna walk away, that he wasn't finished yet, not by far. His words, page 351. He kept going after he thought his brother Marsh had died. He didn't stop. He attacked the final empire where it couldn't hurt worse. Page 450. Right after his death of the death of his brother, he attacked the pits of Harshan themselves and destroyed the whole mine, making it unusable for the mining of atium. He didn't even stop after his death. After his death, Kelsier had plans. He had letters that were brought to the rest of the crew and gave them directions and the hope they needed to fight on without him. He united the Scar and his crew in one of the darkest times. Through his death, he brought through the biggest Scar rebellion ever seen in Luthandel, the capital. He united his crew, consisting of the most different people, under the goal of defeating the final empire. Kelsier represents the thing the Lord Ruler could never kill, no matter how hard he tries. He is hope. Page 475. I am hope. Quote by Kelsier, right before his death. And now we're gonna talk about the man that killed him, the Lord Ruler himself. The Lord Ruler is the main villain in the story. His name before his ascension to godhood was Rashek. Let's first talk about the exterior view of the Lord Ruler. His appearance after his ascension to godhood is described by Vin as that of a tall, thin, and confident man. Page 475. He is also handsome and has jet black hair and pale skin. Page 474. His clothing consists of an over-exaggerated nobleman attire and a lot of metal accessories, symbolizing his power. Before his ascension, in the time where he was a simple packman, he was described by the hero of ages as handsome in a rugged sort of way. Page 160, epigraph. Now let's talk about the interior view of the Lord Ruler. The Lord Ruler is not, as he claims, the hero of ages. He was merely a packman accompanying the actual hero of ages to the Well of Ascension. The Well of Ascension is a place where the great evil could be destroyed by the Hero of Ages, and with that the world could be saved. On the way to this place, the hero needed Pac-Man, so he got a few talismen, including Rashek, who later became the Lord Ruler. All information of the time pre-Ascension comes from a logbook that the Hero of Ages wrote. He describes his journey to the Well of Ascension with the Pac-Man. He also describes the hatred he got from Rashek on his quest. Rashek hated the hero because he thought a foreigner could not be the Hero of Ages. He should have been a talisman of pure blood. Page 366 epigraph. This hate leads to Rashek killing the Hero of Ages and taking the power from the Well of Ascension and enslaving the world, and in turn becoming the Lord Ruler. Rashek, the Lord Ruler, is not the Hero of Ages, not the man that defeated the great evil. He is the one that enslaved it. The great evil was, though, still destroyed and the world was saved, but 99% of humanity had to live the rest of their lives and their children for over 1,000 years enslavement. I do not know if one can call it saving the world. He enslaved all he deemed subservient. He himself and a fraction of the Terrace people think that they are superior than the rest of the world's people due to the magical power called Furokmi, which I talked in the explanation of the setting. That they should rule all over mankind. Of course, not all Terrace men believed in that. Those who didn't believe in him were made servants. Not normal servants, because in breeding programs he let this part of the Terrace live on. However, in these breeding programs, all of the Terrace people that left the programs to become servants were castrated to ensure unregulated reproduction happens. Because the magical power of Pyromockery is in the bloodlines. So through those programs, the Lord Ruler controlled these magic users so that they don't exist. Enslaving your own kind of people, huh? And now that the Lord Ruler rules with an iron fist, his laws are brutal and his reign is built on terror and oppression. He is extremely powerful. And also his extremely powerful inquisitors keep everyone in check, as does his obligators who know everything that happens in the nobility. Through his organizations, he uses emotional manipulation magic to make sure a Scar rebellion is very unlikely. He uses the magic in this world to dampen the emotions of the Scar so they could never rebel. He is a ruler who thinks his people are superior to the rest of the world. He is led by hatred. This is the personification of oppression. The Lord Ruler. A man filled with hate. The conflict. Just quickly, those are still Inquisitors that you can see right there, with their axes in their hand, and in the middle this is Kelsier trying to fight them off. The main conflict of both of these characters is that of hope against oppression. Kelsier is hope. It is hope for a better life without oppression, without needing to do anything to survive for a good life. And the Lord Ruler is the personification of oppression. He will do anything to hold to the powers he has. But this story resembles also another thing. It resembles the inevitable fall of oppression to hope. Because hope cannot be killed. Hope cannot be stopped. They will always rise, men, also women, to fight against injustice, oppression, to fight against evil. And with that, that is my presentation about the characterization of Kelsier, the survivor of the pits of Hashen, and Rashek, the false hero of ages, the Lord Ruler. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.